Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Matt with Hooked Up Fishing. I had a request to do a tutorial on how to install the Fishfinder on the Eagle Talon the way I have it. I'm just going to do this. It's getting late. I'm having to do this with a headlight. I forgot about doing this video. The way I have mine is it's a Lowrance Elite 4 Chirp. This is the Fishfinder chart plotter, and it is mounted on a ram mount. That's the specific ram mount for this Fishfinder. It's mounted in the cup holder, kind of in between my legs. I can fold it down if I need to get it out of the way, but all I have is I have it screwed down into the cup holder with silicone on it. Screws don't come through far enough to get to where, you know, if I reach under that they hit me or anything. The wiring I have run through a Hobie through hole plug, I believe is what they call this. It's a waterproof plug. I have two of the wires coming through it. One of the wires I just ran through a hole. Depending on the Fishfinder you have, you may not have to worry about having another, but there is another design to this. This is just a single hole, but they do make a 3-hole, which I installed on my buddy's kayak, and it worked good. You can actually have 3 wires running through it. It has, instead of 1 space, it has 3 spaces to put the plug. The plug looks like this. This piece here is the insert, and the insert you change based off of the wire diameter, but this is the single, and Hobie also has a triple that's similar design but has 3 spaces for 3 different inserts. Can be a wire, you can put a blank in it if you aren't putting anything in it, but it works. I may change to that, but currently this is working fine for me. I did change on my Fishfinder. This is the short 1-inch ball to 1-inch ball extension. I believe when you buy the base or the mount for the Fishfinder, I believe when you buy it, it comes with a medium length. It was just a little bit too tall for me, kind of got in the way, so I put a short base on it and like it a lot better. But the way I've got it run is, the first thing you do is you want to mount your Fishfinder, or you want to mount your transducer. If I can get let's put the camera down so if I can get the cap off. What I'm using here is the Lowrance Scupper plug transducer mount. This thing is being a pain. It does not want to come off. Now, I modified it, and I'll raise the kayak up and get up under it and show you how I modified it. Let me raise the kayak up here. Depending on the transducer that you run, mine has to where you can take the actual bolt-on piece off, and it tucks up into the channel here that you see. It tucks up into it pretty nicely. It still rubs the bottom, but it doesn't really hurt the transducer. I've scuffed it up and I haven't been able to see a performance difference in it. But what I did was, whenever I put the scupper plug mount in, it has a flange, it has like a wings on it, so that on a kayak, I guess it looks as if it's on for a kayak that has a flat bottom, you can mount it and it will keep it from, it'll hold the bottom piece and keep it from pulling up into the scupper plug. I didn't want that because it put the transducer hanging lower, and I didn't particularly like that because fishing shallow water, I wanted to be able to run shallower without having to worry about the transducer being below the bottom of the hull. And it's probably, I'd say, a ½ inch below the above the bottom of the center bottom of the hull. So I trimmed those ears off to where I could pull the transducer all the way up into this channel here, like you see, and without taking it off, it's hard to see the piece that's up above here that the actual transducer mounts to. But essentially all you do is you cut the 4 wings off of that to where the transducer can still mount to the piece, but you can also pull the transducer flush and up against the bottom of the kayak. Once you do that, what you're going to do, first you want to feed your wire up through your scupper plug as you before you pull this up. There's a top bracket and a plastic threaded rod here in the center with a little plastic wing nut. What you'll do is put the top piece on, then put your wing nut on and screw it down till it gets tight. And what you're going to notice, sorry about it, I'm getting the camera off here. What you'll notice is that it's going to start pulling the transducer up. Now, if you did like I did and trimmed off the wings on the bottom plate, you're going to be pulling the transducer up into, or the front of the transducer up into the hole if you use the bolt-on style, which you can use with this scupper plug mount. I'll put a link to the mount and the plugs on the end of the description. But if you do that and you keep tightening, you will pull the bolt end up into the scupper plug, which will end up making your transducer set at an odd angle. I learned this whenever my cousin bought an Elite 4, but he got the Elite 4 Fishfinder without the chart plotter, had a different transducer with it. I have the much wider transducer. So the way we did with his was, as we got it set, we used silicone and polyurethane sealant to set his transducer in place. It keeps keeps a little bit from obstructions from, like, if anything hits the transducer from the front, it doesn't directly hit the transducer and pull down on this piece. And it also, once it sets up, you can tighten this a little more and pull the bottom piece up against all that polyurethane sealant, and it'll get snug instead of being loose and like it. Because when we originally did his, we noticed that the top piece would want to keep pulling up without something for that bottom plate to hit on whenever we trim the wings off. Now, if you don't trim the wings off and you leave it lower, then you won't have that problem. The wings will hit and it'll tighten up when the wings hit the bottom of the kayak. However, running the this setup, you'll have to come up with something, and the silicone or the polyurethane on the bottom and then filling silicone on top of it worked out good for us. Once you have it set, you just trim the end of that rod. Now this rod will be probably come up to right about here. It's pretty long, but just take you a pair of pliers or something and cut the rod off to where it's flush, because what you want is you want to be able to have this cap here that comes with it to clip on to the top bracket. Before you clip the cap on, I highly recommend taking marine grade silicone and filling the scupper plug as much as you can with silicone, because you can see where I've filled it in. I filled a little bit on the bottom when the first year I did it, but after it set over the winter, the silicone I believe shrank, and the first trip out it was 50 degrees or so outside, and I realized I was getting wet because I had a leak coming in from the scupper plug. All I did when I came home, filled it full of silicone, have not had a leak since. But once you've mounted it, and there are detailed instructions that come with the mount, all you do is take and clip the cover on, and you can see that the scupper plug I'm using is under my seat. If I flip my seat over on top of it, you really aren't going to notice it. It's probably 1/8 of an inch higher than the floor of the kayak. Once I did that, I took my wire, I ran over through the Hobie through hole plug, ran the wire down into the kayak hole, and ran the wire, pulled the wire all the way through up here to the access. Now once you pull the wire up to the access, you'll want to put the nut that goes on this plug onto the wire, and then reach back through the access and tighten it up until you get a good seal here with the O-ring that's on it. You have to put the nut on after the wire is run through the hole, but you want to make sure you do it before you run it up through the plug in the front. Once you've got that one on and that one's tightened up in the back, take pull the nut for your front one if you use the single. Now if you use the triple, it does not have a screw on top of it. I'll in the description, when you go to look at these through hole plugs, you'll see that these are threaded. These are threaded with a plastic nut on the back of them. The 3-hole style that Hobie makes is not threaded. It actually screws down to the kayak. I believe it's a 1/8 hole that it makes. All these holes that you see for these big plugs, you can do that with a step bit. I got mine from Harbor Freight, I believe, just a cheap step bit. It doesn't have to be anything expensive to go through this. It's probably 12 or 13 bucks, I think, for a 2-bit set, but they will drill through this and work perfect for making the holes for these plugs. Once you come up through this hole with your wire, now remember, you want to put your nut on before you come up, and if you've got 2 wires, you want to feed the nut through one and then through over one, then over the other, because what you're doing is you're running it down below, then you'll run whichever, see if I can zoom into this. Then you'll run your wiring through whichever insert you've picked that works best. Once you've run that, you can take, put your plug in. Before you put your plug on, you'll want to put the O-ring on to over top of the connectors. Then reach in and just tighten your nut up. The plug kits also come with instructions, so they'll explain how to install those, what size hole you have to drill for each individual, or the single and the triple plugs. Once you tighten that up, if you want, you can take some silicone to go around it. So far, I'm just relying on the rubber seal that comes with it, and I haven't had any issues with it. But I just keep mine, usually I just keep my Fishfinder connected to it, but you can disconnect them if you want. Once you have done that, you can do what I've done here. This is just a simple way. I've took all my extra cable from the Fishfinder, bundled it up, and I just kind of slide it off to the side to where it's out of the way. I have access if I need to get into anything, if I'm storing anything in here, but it won't be in the way. You could store it a different way if you wanted to, but so far that's worked for me. But as far as the installation, that's pretty much it. You're just mounting the base, mounting the transducer with a scupper plug mount, running the wiring through the through hole plugs that Hobie makes in the back and here, and coming up to the Fishfinder. Now, if you were mounting your transducer off to the side with, I know a couple manufacturers make transducer mounts that you just actually set the transducer on like a flexible mount that you set in the water. You could do essentially the same thing as what you have here if you wanted to run the wiring to where it was out of the way and not in your foot runners. You could run it here and come up somewhere on the side of the kayak, drill a hole, put one of your Hobie through hole wire plugs, and then take your transducer mount and drop it off to the side. I particularly don't like that because I feel it would get in my way paddling, as well as having to take it off each time that I come out of the kayak, to whether I'm beaching the kayak up to get out and walk around, stretch my legs, or whether I'm putting it back on the truck. This here, I can leave it where it is. I don't ever have to move it. The only thing I ever have to take off if I want to is taking off the chart plotter. The way I've done, and I'll do another video on my battery box, that way I can show you. See if I can get my plug out of here. I'm running my power back down into the kayak, and I'm going to a 6-pin Deutsch plug because my battery powers my kayak, or powers my kayak lights, the Fishfinder, and also I have a 12-volt plug here for charging the phone, running a drop light for crappie, or whatever else I may need to power. But pretty much that's it. If you have any other questions on how to mount anything or how to run any wiring, just let me know. I'll try to do my best to try to help. This is just kind of a crude video on how to mount this. It's dark outside now, and having to do the best I can with my lighting here. When I get back home, I'll do a video on my battery box. My battery box, when you take it, it's made out of a ammo box from Walmart. I think I've seen a video on YouTube about it, but you can take it and it will slide up this center channel of the Eagle Talon that Field and Stream makes, which is my brand of kayak, and it will kind of wedge in here, won't slide around as you're paddling and you know, shift your weight on you. Plus having it right here kind of in the center, it's not all the way back, it's still a little forward, but it gets the weight of the battery because I use a pretty big battery. It gets it here in the towards the center of the kayak, but close to the battery, close to everything else that I have, and I'm using one plug to plug up to it. But I'll do a video on that whenever I get back to the house and add it in with this one. But have any questions, just leave it in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can on those questions. But appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Alright, this is part 2 of the Fishfinder install video. This is my battery box. This is just a plain old ammo box from Walmart that I've put a, I think this is a 16L-US size battery in. This is the Duracell Ultra battery. It's actually a starting battery, but it works good for powering the Fishfinder. This is, you can see just the wiring inside this, positive and negative. All the fuses are inside of the battery box so that they stay sealed, because the battery box is has a seal in the lid to keep it dry. All these are run out and silicone sealed around the wire hole, and they go to the male plug for the Deutsch plug that connects up to the one on the kayak. I have on my battery box, I just have a piece that I cut a section out of the battery box and installed this with a 12-volt outlet, and it has the USB outlets, one's a 1 amp and one's a 2.1 amp outlet. That way I can use it off of the kayak. If I'm surf fishing, I can take it with me and use it to charge my cell phone or power a light if I need a light at night. But essentially it's a simple design on the box. One thing you have to do on this box to fit this battery, because the box has little ribs in it, is just take a Dremel tool, or you can take a razor blade knife, is what I did, and cut the rib supports out till they are level with the lowest section in the lid, and that will clear the battery. You could use a smaller battery. You could probably fit a bigger battery in it, as far as it being longer, if you didn't have the power plugs in it like I do. But with the power plugs in it, this particular battery is about as big as you can get in it. See if I can zoom in and get the part number. It is a Dura AGM 16L-US 325 cold cranking amp battery. Yeah, like I said, it's a starting battery for a jet ski, but usually after 8 hours on the water, bring it home, put it on charger, and you'll be at 65% battery capacity, and it'll charge right back up and work all day. Now if you hook up a drop light like I do for crappie to it, it'll drain it down a little bit quicker. My big light draws 2.5 amps, and usually I can only use it for about 3 hours before it drops my voltage to 12 volts or below. But I've never been out long enough to, even with the drop light, to drop the voltage to where the Fishfinder will go off. So it's big enough. Any size battery. Walmart's got a couple size batteries you can put. I know Deca Batteries has a battery that'll fit in there. Usually, I think the 1UL batteries fit in that box, but you just have to kind of take the dimensions of the box and the dimensions of the battery. You can figure out whether it'll fit or not. But simple battery box. It fits inside the channel in the kayak and won't move around. The waterproof plug keeps from having any issues of water entry, and probably would never fill the battery box up even if you flooded your kayak. But you know, if you flood the kayak, you're not worrying about a battery box. This keeps any moisture that's in the kayak coil from getting to the pin connections on the plug, since it's sealed up. So other than that, pretty much simple way to do a battery box.